Alex for being Free Geek's summer intern, which is really more, we're probably going to call it a fellowship because of kind of the level of work required, and Alex just really kicked a lot of butt in getting this event together. So let me pull up my slides really quick.
Your USB stick is in there.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to pull it up on Google Docs. Of course, I forget the link, so I have to go to my own Twitter.
Are you going to use the hammers as part of your...
Yes, I'll be throwing these hammers. Hopefully not.
It's not in the code of conduct.
Yeah. All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome to Software Freedom Day. So this talk is called Software Freedom, and we're just going to talk a bunch about sort of Free Geek Chicago, the values that we have here, the values of open source software, and sort of an admonition to go forth and hack. And like I said, I'm David Eads. I'm a developer for the Chicago Tribune. I helped start Free Geek Chicago, and now I run a group here called the Supreme Chi-Town Coding Crew. We'll be back in the room right behind us hacking on some jail data from Cook County Jail and a project that we've been doing around that. So software freedom. So let's just start with a sort of a premise. Computers are everywhere. I'm going to ease you in. So this is a Free Geek volunteer playing what we call the human internet game. But computers are everywhere. We all know that. And computers sort of seem like magic, right? So computers sort of, we sort of often are amazed or sort of confused by the computers in our life. And I'd sort of like to ask, does this make geeks witches and or wizards? Remembering what happened to witches and wizards in movies like Monty Python's Holy Grail. But computers are just machines. It's just something that you can hack, and here at Free Geek, one of the things that we try to do is we try to destroy fear with crowbars and with screwdrivers and with pliers, so that people know that these computers that they work with, that mystify them, that frustrate them, that they have to contend with just to live their life. It's just a machine. It's something that you can hack. It's something that you can change, and it's something that you can make to do what you need to do. Oops. So computers are full of scary stuff. None scarier really than Linux itself. As much as we love Linux, as great as Linux is, it's really annoying too, right? Like, it never works quite right. You're always looking for answers. So I just want to survey who feels 100% of the time perfectly empowered by all the gizmos and computers and everything in their lives. Raise your hand. All the time. Right, exactly. Nobody feels that great about the computers in their lives all the time. And so computers are full of scary stuff, but they're also full of really scary stuff, right? They're not just full of sort of annoying, sort of geeky quirks, but they're actually full of dangerous chemicals. They come from places where labor is exploited, including the Texas prison system, which makes a lot of equipment for Dell. Computers are full of really scary stuff too, just the physical objects. And here is somebody in Nigeria carrying computers in one of the world's big digital dumping grounds. So at Free Geek, one of the things that we want to admonish everybody to do is take the scary stuff out of computers. That's what we're here to do. Let's take the scary stuff out of computers. And this is Janet, one of Free Geek's great volunteers. She's been around for 6 years. She runs QA. She takes the scary stuff out of computers. software. We're talking about software freedom today, and so software is everywhere too. And so I just want to, show you guys this is the digital toilet. Believe it or not, there's a digital toilet that you can use, I guess, in Japan. And so this is probably running software, right? Like there's software on this thing that helps you flush the toilet. But software is just the tool too. It's just the steering wheel for your car. It's just this thing that you use to control all this technology around us. And so how do we kind of grab onto that and make it ours and make it work for us? So software links computers and people. It links them for the better. This is folks at a hackathon that happened here in Chicago called the Migra Hack. Shout outs to Claudia Nunez from Human Rights Watch, who goes all around the country and organizes hackathons around immigration data. And so there's some free geek volunteers and some journalists and some students, and it's really a beautiful thing. But software can also make the world worse, right? In a couple months, this Google Glass is going to come out, and people are going to be walking around contributing video back to the surveillance state. Who wants that? Raise your hand. Who wants Google Glass if you know that it could be used for some of those purposes? So software isn't necessarily the most inherently good thing. So again, an admonition, let's take the scary stuff out of software. Let's make this for everybody. And so this is Englewood Codes, which is a program that ran this summer and did beautiful work with teaching young people how to code for the web. So they say that technology is empowering, right? You've heard all this discussion about the digital divide. We got to bridge the digital divide. Fundamentally, whoops, that was the wrong slide. So they say technology is empowering, but I'm not always so sure. I think that it sort of lives on the edge. But if we want technology to empowering, let's make sure that it is, right? So what is this? Who can tell me what this is?
That is PRISM. That is the NSA's program where they work with all the companies in the left column to backdoor all the services in the right column.
That's right. So this is a window into the surveillance state.
Backdoor. Well, let's just say that the NSA doesn't even need a warrant to read your Gmail.
That's right. Yep. So.
Or your Facebook or anything.
So let's make sure that technology is empowering. Let's make sure that these work for us, because whatever you think about PRISM, I can say for sure, we as citizens didn't ask for it. We as citizens didn't have very much to do with its development. And so we need to ask for that. So all this talk about the digital divide, we're going to empower people, people are going to have a voice. It bothers me, right? Because okay, people are going to have a voice on the internet, even though nobody listened to poor people and the disenfranchised. Those are fights that get heard in every other medium that's ever been invented. Why is it going to be any different with the internet? At Free Geek, we think that tech literacy is a survival skill in the modern city. Here's Craigslist. That's how you find an apartment in the city. You need to go online to find a job. You need to go online to fill out your bill, to pay your bills. Tech access isn't empowering. It's just what you have to get by. And that's why it's so important. So what is software freedom? I've come up with sort of 4 main points that I'd like to discuss. Rights for users. So this is the code of conduct from PyCon, a very forward-looking conference that talks about how people should behave in their space when they're interacting in the Python community. So rights for users, and rights go much further than that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Responsibilities for creators. So this is the BSD license, and it simply says this is a legal document that says this code that I've put online. It's something that I'm sharing freely with you as long as you just give me some credit. And so we'll talk a little bit about that in a second as well. But responsibilities for creators. So this is something that is on creators to share and to sort of uphold. Self-determination, this is from Software Freedom Day last year. But self-determination, the ability, like I said in the PRISM slide, the ability for us as people and as citizens to actually have a say over what happens with our technology. And creating a healthy society. And one thing that I've said in talks in the past is that the history of the internet or the history of open source, it's not a people's history. And I have pictures of Tim Berners-Lee and all these kind of famous white guys who help kind of develop the internet. But the truth is that that's not true. We just don't see the people's history. So this is Grace Hopper. She's one of the just founding figures of modern computer science, and she's working on UNIVAC, the very first computer. And as you can see, there's people of several races along with her. We forget that the first computer programmers were actually women who punched cards because creating application logic was beneath the people who actually created the machines. It is a people's history, but we forget. So what is free and open source software? Just a real quick sort of lesson in software. So software sits between you, the user, and the computer, the hardware, the silicon and electronic bits. And so this is some source code that's listening for some input and it's going to turn it into some output. This is kind of the fundamental lesson we tell people at Free Geek. So when you click the page, pop up a little button, alert, we clicked the page. And so the computer does some magic stuff, and when you hit enter, you'll see I clicked on the page. So that's how software works. And computers and computer programs are actually built out of these common parts. So we're not just talking about, so as a software developer, I don't actually have to do a lot of the heavy lifting that's required to make a program because other people have created components that will help me with that. Help me download a web page or help me display something on a screen. So sort of like a bicycle, we sort of put together these common parts and engineer them into something that people can use and that is hopefully useful for people. So let's talk for a second about free software licenses. So free software licenses hack copyright law. So in the United States, we have copyright law that gives creators of quote-unquote intellectual property an almost unlimited monopoly to use, to profit from their works. And what open source software says, what free software says, is we're going to take that license and instead of saying you can't use this here, you can't use this there, you can't do this, you can't do that, it says you must share the same way that I shared with you. And this is like a really key hack because it creates a legal foundation that fits within the current system, but kind of transcends it, kind of asks people to imagine a different world, to imagine how we can think about intellectual property in a different way. So there's four sort of freedoms that were articulated by Richard Stallman, one of the people who helped create the open source or the free software movement, I should say. The freedom to run the program for any purpose, the freedom to study how the program works and change it, the freedom to redistribute copies, and the freedom to distribute copies of modified versions. So if I take your software and I modify it, then I also have the freedom to distribute it and to give it away. 30 years of software freedom. So in just a couple days, this movement is going to be 30 years old. It started in 1983. And of course, it started far before then, and there was all sorts of people thinking about it for a long time. But Richard Stallman's copyleft, all rights reversed, was ensconced in this license, in this legal document in 1983. And I would say that computing and technology in the world is better for it. So it creates a remarkable legal foundation. Who's used Firefox? Yeah, all right. Who's benefited from the work of Mozilla beyond Firefox? See, lots of hands. This is Mitchell Baker, who runs the Mozilla Foundation, and has been just a tireless advocate for users' rights and for freedom on the web. And so we have this foundation. We have this foundation that we can build on. But what are we going to build on it? So let's build a tradition of rights for users. Let's work together to actually be citizens online and to be a community online, and to have some say over what happens in this with the technology we're using. This is the Nonprofit Developers Summit in San Francisco, where some really like amazing kind of discussions happen over exactly these issues. So go forth and hack. Really, I mean, we can talk about sort of the philosophy and the history all day, and I hope that we do. But go forth and hack. Let's build some stuff. Let's build some exciting stuff. So build a robot. This is a young woman in Argentina using an Arduino to build a robot at a hack day there. Learn some fundamentals. This is here in Chicago. Miranda Mulligan from the Night Lab teaching design skills to geeks who don't necessarily do so well at design. Use Linux. This is our classroom just in the back. Hack something. Here's somebody hacking their Samsung phone. And you can sort of see them reflected. Refurbish some computer equipment. That's what we do here. This is our laptop room. Take an old piece of equipment that would otherwise go in the landfill or may even go to Africa or Asia and give it new life. Recycle responsibly. So last year, Free Geek recycled about 21 tons of electronics on a budget of less than $70,000. And so it can be done. It's exciting that it can be done. And it's something that we all need to do. And you get a sense. This is just here. Where is this? This is out in the suburbs somewhere. That's Sims. Okay, that's in the city. So, but you can see just how much waste, just even in the city of Chicago, we're producing, and how important this is. Liberate some data. Another image from Argentina. This is a group called Garage Lab, and these women are working on a project called Datos Públicos to liberate Latin American government data. If only we had as many efforts as they do in Argentina here in the United States to do this kind of work. Tell a story. This is a project from the Migra hack that I showed you before. This is a story about an immigrant who didn't receive health care. Make a game. Unfortunately, Jake Elliott couldn't be here, but Jake Elliott is a hacker in Chicago and has been sort of creating games and has run hack spaces and teaches people how to create games like this, and has created this really beautiful game and is a great part of our community. Help a friend. So this is the Safer Communities Hackathon, and these folks are working on thinking about how to wrangle crime data and helping each other do it. And let's advocate for users' rights. And so as a journalist, I can't tell you how to advocate for users' rights, and so in part that's why I have Prince up on the screen. Prince has not really advocated for users' rights. Prince has been really strong about kind of going after copyright violators. He's the first person to sue anybody for creating a Vine, like a short video, based on his work. But Prince is doing something, right? Prince is trying to do something with copyright, and I love Prince, so I don't want to rip on Prince too much. But we need to advocate for users' rights, whatever that means for you. Volunteer your skills. This is orientation at Free Geek, and we have, a couple dozen people, 18 people or something here being taught by Susan, another one of Free Geek's volunteers, and they're going to go and they're going to take apart some computers and volunteer and help each other learn. And create gig jobs, and this is probably the most important one in my mind. We talk about, we're going to use the internet to give kids, to give marginalized people a voice. As technologists, maybe that's not actually the thing that we need to do, because what do we have? We have economic power. A lot of us do. We work in technological fields. We are the wizards that we saw earlier. We're the Harry Potters. And we need to help create good jobs for people. We need to create a more diverse tech industry. We need a tech industry that looks like our city does, that's as diverse as the places where we live. And that's something that we can do with our power and our privilege. And so we need to think about how we're going to do that and how we're going to do that effectively. This is a chocolate factory also in Argentina. I'm a little obsessed with Argentina in this presentation. But this is a chocolate factory that was taken back over by its workers after the company collapsed. A recovered factory, a fabrica recuperada. And this represents to me like exactly what we're looking for. Sort of people taking control of their economic destiny, taking control of resources that already exist, and making something for themselves. And so this woman is back making chocolate for the chocolate factory. So finally, just a final admonition in the spirit of open source. This is my team motto at work, and I think that it really underlies everything that we'd like to talk about here. Don't forget to show your work. Thanks.